At the same time as Gazprom, the Russian state-owned energy giant, has slashed the supply of gas into Western Europe, as many as 90,000 Russian troops have amassed on the Ukrainian border. Now, James, the US chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, says this isn't an overtly aggressive action. I don't know. I was there when MH17 went down, and the behaviour of the surrogate Russian troops was this and more. It looks pretty overt and aggressive to me.
Well, yeah, Peta, and I mean, look, frankly, I'd rather serve under General Custer than General Milley. He's the guy who famously said that he would call the Chinese to tell them and warn them if Donald Trump was planning an attack on them. So, you know, this guy, for him to say that there's no real threat here, he was also the one who botched the withdrawal of Afghanistan. I find that just I cannot accept that. I think that we're in a very dangerous situation because, you know, since that time, which you mentioned, things have gotten that much more dangerous. And we are now in a situation where Russia can hold Western Europe to hostage. And a lot of that is due to the policies of Angela Merkel, who decarbonized the German economy. But a lot of that is also due to Joe Biden, who's been letting Nord Stream 2 pipeline go through. And that's what all of this is about. But there's a third element to this, too. China and Russia have been working very closely together on military exercises lately. They see America as very weak. America cannot handle two crises at once. If China was to make a Pearl Harbor-style attack while Russia provoked a crisis in Europe, it would be an incredibly dangerous moment, and America wouldn't be able to respond to it.
Nor would Europe, when you think of the underpinning, certainly in finances, but also in troops that NATO are provided by the US. I want to turn to an extraordinary story, if I can, of the United Kingdom. Disturbing rant written by the co-founder of Extinction Rebellion has been unearthed. The pamphlet, authored by Roger Hallam when he was imprisoned 2 years ago, suggests that the so-called climate crisis will eventually lead to violent gangs breaking into homes and sexually assaulting women. Now, Kosha, I couldn't wrap my head around this, but we know at COP26, we had the COP26 meeting focus on the issue of gender and climate change. But this is evidence that they're deranged, isn't it?
For sure, I think it is, and it sort of touches on the first segment in this, the first topic, the culture wars, where I think it's stitching together different narratives, whether it's climate change, gender inequality, and all of that into the narrative that, you know, feeds the beast and what a certain part of the leadership class is trying to sell. The other takeaway, too, to me, though, in this is kind of the democratization of media that we've had, which is a wonderful thing, and lots of ideas can get out there and independent voices can get out there and are accessible to consumers. But the flip side of that is the number of platforms available to people who are willing to say outrageous things to get attention just keeps growing. And this guy, I was looking it up, and he was on 2 podcasts last month. He's on the speaking circuit. You know, he's willing to say provocative things that gets him airtime on various platforms, and that's sort of, I guess, a symptom of where we are as a culture in terms of the media and clickbait and, you know, buying things like this that people are willing to say.
Yeah, but the traditional media, don't they, James, have to push back on some of this stuff because it just doesn't even pass muster.
Well, yeah, exactly right. And I mean, you have a group like Extinction Rebellion, which is presuming to speak for the environment and for environmentalists. But you read something like this, you read a manifesto like this, and I looked at that document. It is pages and pages and pages of this just weird, bizarre, dystopian fantasy hellscape. And it really shows that at the heart of all of this Extinction Rebellion nonsense and a lot of the green movement is, you know, this kind of cultish anti-religion, which just sees, you know, everything as goodies and baddies and sees, you know, hell just around the corner, not in the next life, but in this life, if we don't follow their own manifesto, their own commandments. You know, the environmental movement, Peta, has so much in common, I think, with the Christian narrative that is built into the DNA of our culture. Even if we're, you know, a post-Christian society, that's still there. And that's why people respond to this, because it is that narrative of sin, of redemption. And if you fall on this earth, then you wind up in this hellscape, which they describe.